Hey everyone, today we're diving into something that, let's be honest, every parent has thought about. How and when do our kids actually learn to lie? And believe it or not, there's a whole science behind it. So let's get into this story. Right? This is the big question. You find Crane on the wall, you look at your toddler, and you get that wide-eyed, totally unconvincing, "It wasn't me." So what's the deal? When does that little switch in their brain just flip? Well, here's the first major twist in the story. It turns out there is no switch. Science actually shows us that a child's first lie isn't some kind of moral failure. It's a sign of incredible cognitive growth, a developmental milestone, just like learning to walk or talk. Yeah, so first things first, we've got to bust this myth of a single liar switch. The research is really clear on this. It's not a sudden decision a kid makes one day. It's a slow, gradual process that totally depends on them making a huge cognitive leap. Think about it. To tell a lie that actually works, a child first has to master this mind-bendingly complicated skill. They have to be able to get inside another person's head. And that skill has a name. It's called theory of mind. And it's this profound, game-changing realization that what's inside your head isn't the same as what's inside everybody else's head. That other people have completely different thoughts and knowledge and beliefs. I just love this way of thinking about it. It's that moment a child finally understands that other people have their own private universe of thoughts going on. See, before this, they pretty much assume that if they know something, well, of course, everybody else must know it too. The second they grasp this isn't true, well, that's when the door to deception creaks open. So when does this massive cognitive light bulb finally go off? Well, a huge meta-analysis of almost 180 studies gives us a really clear window. It's right around age 4. That's when most kids start to consistently pass the tests for theory of mind. This is the key transition period. Okay, so how on earth do scientists actually study this stuff? They use this brilliantly simple setup, a classic experiment called the don't peek experiment. The whole setup, it's so simple. A child is left alone in a room with a really cool toy, but there's one rule: don't peek at it. The researcher leaves, gives them a chance to peek, then comes back in and asks that one direct question: did you peek? And that simple answer, that's the data. Okay, now what happens with really young kids is absolutely fascinating. In one study of 2.5-year-olds, only about a third of them even peeked at the toy. And of the ones who did, only about 27% lied about it. But get this last number. A staggering 40% of the kids who didn't even peek confessed that they did anyway. So the big takeaway here is that at this super early age, lying is nowhere near a default strategy. That crazy high rate of false confessions shows us that toddlers give wrong answers for all kinds of reasons. Maybe they're confused or they just want to be agreeable, but it's not necessarily intentional deceit. But as you'd expect, as kids get older, their lies start to evolve. They don't just lie more often, the lies themselves become way more sophisticated and, frankly, a lot more believable. Now look at this. In a study of 3 to 8-year-olds, the numbers just flip completely. A huge majority, 82%, peaked, and of those, 64% lied. Lying is now the go-to response. But, and this is my favorite part, notice this last line. 72% of the kids who lied still leaked the truth by later naming the toy they supposedly never even saw. And that right there tells the real story of their development. It's not about flipping a switch from honest to dishonest. It's about slowly, gradually mastering the art of consistent lying. Maintaining the fake story without accidentally giving yourself away. But okay, here's where it gets really, really interesting. A kid's choice to lie, it's not just about what's happening in their brain. It is massively influenced by the situation, and more specifically by what we adults actually say to them. The data from another big study just shows how much our words matter. I mean, look at this. When an adult didn't even ask for the truth, just asked the question, 87% of kids lied. But when the adult simply said that telling the truth would make them pleased or happy, the lying rate plummeted to 46%. That is a massive difference, just from a few simple words. And you know what's even more powerful? The fear factor. In one scenario, an adult appealed to the child to do the right thing, but they also threatened punishment for lying. What happened? 86% of the kids lied. But when that threat of punishment was removed, the rate of lying was cut almost in half, all the way down to 45%. The environment we create is a huge driver of honesty. Okay, so we've seen the whole theory of mind thing. We've looked at the experimental data, and we've seen how much adults can influence the situation. Let's connect all these pieces into one clear developmental timeline. So, researchers basically categorize lies into three levels. First, you have primary lies, around ages 2 to 3. These are those simple denials, like, I didn't do it. Then, around age 4, you get secondary lies. This is when theory of mind kicks in, allowing for more plausible, thought-out stories. And finally, around 7 or 8, you get tertiary lies, which are sophisticated enough to hold up even when someone starts asking follow-up questions. So after all this, what's the big takeaway? It's this. The next time you catch a child in a fib, just try to remember what you're actually seeing. You're not witnessing some deep character flaw. You're literally watching a sign of a developing brain hard at work, a brain that's learning to navigate a really complex social world by figuring out the minds of other people. And all of this leaves us with one final, really important question. If we know that lying is a natural cognitive step forward, not a moral step back, how should that change the way we, as the adults in their lives, talk to them about why it's so important to tell the truth?